Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next installment in my podcast tutorial series. This one is going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about, how to track the podcast, how to upload the files, how to manage all the documentation, and what to do on release day. So it's really important to keep things organized. And as I said from the beginning, I'm a huge fan of templates. And the first template that we're going to go over is my template on the guest information. So this is basically what I have that I start from, and what I've got is some simple setups that are going to be used on every single episode, and then I just modify it for the particular guest. So let's say that I'm doing episode 5, and my guest is Beethoven. I couldn't get him for the show though. And then I'll say he was a composer, violinist, pianist. And so that is what is going to go on to the title of the episode wherever it appears, whether it's on YouTube or LinkedIn or Spotify. That is how the episode is going to read. That's the tagline. Then from there, I've got the hashtags. So the hashtags that I've got are ones that I always have on every podcast that signify really more myself and my association with the podcast and the podcast. Then you want to do things for your guests. So you would hashtag piano, obviously. You might hashtag, I can't type while I'm sitting here sideways. You might hashtag, of course, if I could spell piano would probably help. You might hashtag symphony, orchestra, anything that would be associated with your guest, that if people were searching for a hashtag that would relate to your guest and they might want to hear the interview or learn more about the guest, that's what you would put in there. So typically the way I do it is I leave a little space because the way I'm going to copy and paste things. So let's say that I filled out all the hashtags for argument's sake, and I'm going to put a little blurb in here that is going to be the phrasing that I'll put out as I advertise each episode, not what's going to be uploaded to the distributor, but just what I'm going to put on my LinkedIn page or my Facebook page or something like that. So I might say something like this. So join me as I chat with historical figure Beethoven and about music and the countryside, because I know that he used to go into the mountains and he used to walk through the countryside a lot. Of course, they had a lot more countryside back then than we do now, so it's probably easier. But that is going to be the little blurb that I will post as I manually promote the episode. And then I will, of course, add the hashtags. So I keep it this way so that when I go to do my Instagram post, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into an email. And then when I open my Instagram, I can just open the email, copy the text, and paste it. It's a lot easier to have it all here and just copy and paste it than it is to sit there and type that all on Instagram when you're going to be using these hashtags and this blurb in a lot of other posts. So that for me is a time saver. And I started doing it the wrong way completely in the very beginning. And I said, why am I sitting here taking 10 minutes to type all this stuff on every Instagram post? Why don't I just put it in an email and copy and paste it? Makes much more sense. And then I'll post the graphic that I'm using, and it's typically a picture of the guest. Sometimes it might be their project that they're working on, and they're really not there to promote themselves, but they're there to promote, whatever, a conference or an album or a film, and they'll give me a copy of the film poster to use instead of a picture of themselves. And so I'll save that to my phone, and then I'll go into the email, I'll paste the text, I'll use that picture on my phone as the picture to upload to Instagram, and then that post is done. And everything else I do from the computer. So whether I'm posting on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, a blog post, anything else comes from the computer. So I basically work out of this text block. So that's what's going to go there. But I also need to upload a different blurb to the distributor because I want there to be, I don't want to just repeat the message that's in the actual podcast. I want to give a different teaser for the listener to get interested in it. But if somebody happens to find me just randomly searching or whatever, or through a hashtag, when they go to the podcast, they're also going to want to see what the episode was about. And if they go straight to the podcast on any of those places, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, they're going to want to know a little more than just that bio line. So instead of duplicating it, I'll write something else. There, nice and simple. So that is what's going to get uploaded with the episode. So that, and then any of the links that the guest has given me will also go in there. Sometimes it's the guest and sometimes it's the publicist, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I will say, I'll leave a line and then I will post the links. If the links are really long, I'll put them on a separate line. If they're very short, I might put them on one line. So let's say, that was Beethoven's Instagram handle. I would do that on the same line. If it was a very long block of text, like maybe their YouTube channel or a link to a specific video, I would probably separate that and do it this way. And then I would separate those so that it's obvious that that @ sign is related to Beethoven's Instagram. However you want to do it, whatever is comfortable for you. The point is to have all this in one spot. So as you can see here, obviously these links are rather lengthy, so I put them underneath. If I put some on the same line and some underneath, then it looks kind of stupid. So I just do everything consistently and keep it all this way. So that is the thing that I will use to copy and paste, and this helps me a lot. Now, when it comes to the links and things, there are a couple of different sources that you'll get them from. Sometimes the guest will give them to you. If they have a publicist that you're working with, the publicist should provide that. They should also be providing a graphic. Sometimes the guest will send you a graphic. And then, of course, anything that you find, like, you know what, my guest sent me this over, but I also love this video that they did, so I'm going to include that in the links as well. Feel free to ask permission from your guest if you want. Say, hey, I'd also like to use this link. Is that okay? That's always a good idea. Always make your guests feel comfortable and respected. In my case, I know most of my guests personally, so it's very comfortable and easy conversation, but I do get people that I don't know from time to time, or people that I'm familiar with but I don't know personally. So it's always a good idea to just be consistent, be respectful of everybody, and everything will work out just fine. So that's it. So then it comes into my podcast and all the links for my podcast, my website, my YouTube, all that good stuff. And that's it for that document. So that will all get copied and pasted. Normally I would save this. I don't need to now for this. So the next thing that's very important in the process is the actual spreadsheet for the show itself. Now I keep track of all of the episodes and all of the guest advertisers, where I've posted it. There's been some problems with YouTube with my distributor. It used to automatically upload. At first it didn't, and then it did, and now it doesn't again. So I have a few episodes I need to go back, manually download, and then upload to YouTube myself. I just haven't had the time to do it, but I will at some point. So here's basically how it works. I finished the episode. I have uploaded the episode, but let's actually start at the actual beginning. So episode number. So my second episode, I had James Sizemore as my guest. He is a musician. He sent me his bio, and this was the date that the episode aired. And then this is the music that I used for the opening. And that is the opening of the show, as we heard on the last tutorial. Then we used his piece, Smashed to Pieces, for the lead-in between me introducing the show and his interview starting. So normally I use my little Cafe au lait piece, but I didn't in this case. We used Smashed to Pieces, and the lead-in was done by James. So that credit goes to him. And then for the outro, this was a piece I wrote called Off to Find a Friend. And that's the part I use for the ending of the podcast, as I do the last bit of outro dialogue. Yes, I did finish the episode. Yes, I uploaded it to the distributor. And here is that title. So this is copied over from that last sheet that we just looked at. And that is what I will copy into the upload from the distributor, which in my case is Podbean. Now here's where it gets into the post-show area. Did I post this to my Facebook page? Yes, I did. Did I post it to Twitter? Yes, I did. Did I post it to LinkedIn? No, because at the time I hadn't started doing this on LinkedIn yet. Did I post it to the official podcast or the official Facebook page? Yes, I did, as well as Pinterest. We were not uploading to YouTube at that time. So again, one I'll have to go back and fix. Did I upload it to Instagram? Yes, I did. Now, this Instagram podcast page I did not have right away because when I started this, you could only have one Instagram page, and I already had a Mental Sauna Instagram page, which is the one that I refer to right here. Now that I have an official Haskincast podcast Instagram page, I will also post to that. Now, I will post to the official page when the episode is released on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. When the episode has run for a couple of days, usually around Friday or Saturday, I will then post it to my regular Instagram page as kind of a follow-up and to catch people that aren't following the podcast page, even though I would love it if they did. But not everyone does. So then I had to add a new column recently because I have an advertiser now. And advertising spots are usually sold for an episode or a week, a month, or however long they want to run it. And so that is kind of up to them. And I'll give them that rate for being on the show. And I'm currently fitting that in between my opening and the transition music to the guest. So I do my opening, then the advertiser comes on, then the transition music, and then the interview. So it's actually, so far, it's working kind of nicely, but it's a little weird because if the advertisement has music in it, the music is typically the last thing that you'll hear, and then it transitions to the show music. So I could do a little thing saying, hey, check them out, and now on to the show, or something like that, but I haven't really felt the need to do that just yet. So anyway, so there's no advertisers for all these episodes because I didn't have advertisers back then. Every once in a while, I was having an episode that was not uploading to YouTube, or in this case, one that got kicked off. And I should have known better. I thought, I'm just going to try it and see what happens. But Travis plays for that 80s band. And so I used some clips of him performing different songs with the band. And they're a cover band of 80s music. So they're all songs that we don't own. And I thought, well, if I keep it to 10 seconds or less, it should be okay. I'm media. That should fall under media rules or whatever. Well, YouTube didn't see it that way. Or I should say, whoever has the spotter on YouTube didn't see it that way. Now, these are all electronic identifiers. They are there to, when a video is uploaded, it runs through this filter. The filter goes, hey, that's somebody else's material. Going to put a warning on it and slap a potential copyright infringement claim on there. And then it'll say, you don't have to delete the video. This is just a preliminary thing, kind of tagging it as potential copyright infringement. In this case, it absolutely was. I'm not making any money on the podcast, so it's not like I'm making money off of somebody else's music. It falls under media, under podcast, but I thought, well, I'm just going to take the safe route and take it down. It was a song that I do not have the rights to. It's not one of mine. Travis also does not own it. It was one they had performed. So whether he has paid a license for it or not has nothing to do with my show, because his license allows him to perform that song. It doesn't allow me to capture him performing that song. So I did go ahead and remove that episode. That was the only time I got a copyright infringement claim on the show. Interestingly, I have received copyright claims on my own music. So when I started putting up music videos of my own music, I would get immediately, I was getting all these copyright infringement claims, and it took me a minute to understand what was going on. My own distributor for my music, CD Baby, has a filter on YouTube that does the same thing. It detects and says, hey, there's a problem here. We did not allow this music to be uploaded. Now, they just see a file. They just see a page. It doesn't recognize that it's the same artist that created the music that put it up on their site in the first place. So I, after a few of these, I contacted CD Baby. They all happened like within a couple of days. And I contacted CD Baby and I said, well, wait a minute, I'm distributing this music from you. You guys understand this is me, right? And they said, well, no, our software doesn't really work that way. But what we can do is we can whitelist your channel so that the music that we're catching that comes through you, we're going to give a pass to because we know that you uploaded it to us. So we'll identify it. We'll go, wait, no, that's Scott posting his own music. We're okay with that. And it will prevent a violation or a copyright infringement claim from showing up. Now, I have had a couple that have shown up, but then they've immediately been withdrawn. So not a big problem there. So as you see, it's a different color. When I transitioned from 2018 to 2019, I thought, well, let's make it fun and do a different color for 2019. So I did a bunch of episodes in 2019. Then we get to 2020. And here is where the YouTube problems started again between YouTube and my distributor. So they said there's a workaround. And I thought, okay, and I didn't really understand it. So I still have to go back and re-upload these episodes to YouTube. But now what I'm doing is if you're with Podbean, when the episode airs, you'll get a link in your media section of an MP4. So when you upload, the MP3 is there, but there's an MP4 that will appear as the episode is released, and that you can download and then upload to YouTube. And the nice thing is, it looks as if it was seamless, like CD or like Podbean uploaded it themselves. It has the podcast logo. It has everything that their video has because it's the same video that they would have uploaded if there wasn't some kind of discrepancy between the two channels. So it takes a little bit of extra effort. You can do it yourself. But the nice thing is, you know it's done. You don't have to worry about it. It just takes a little bit of time to upload, fill out all the stuff. If you have an advertiser, make sure that you check the box that there is a paid advertisement in the video. They need to know that. And then you can also check a box that announces that there's a paid advertisement in the video. I haven't done that. I haven't seen a benefit of that. I think that's really more of a turnoff for people to go, oh God, there's ads in this. I don't want to watch it. So I kind of tend to not do that, but totally up to you. And then when the video is done processing, you can then pick the thumbnail, and that's actually pretty nice. So there's that. And then we moved into 2020. Then it was working again. Then it stopped. And here's where I just started uploading it myself. So now I have an advertiser, MJ&J Farms. So now when they buy out a block of time, what I'll do is I will secure my notation for all of those episodes to remember that, hey, I've got an advertiser. I need to remember to slip the advertisement into the podcast. So this reserves for then whatever guests happen to be on during that time, whatever normal shows I air, meaning Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, that's the show that will get the advertisement. I may do a special Saturday show, or like when I did my review of the Stranger Things episodes, I did 8 episodes that weekend. That is not going to be something that'll be a part of the paid advertisement unless they want that. If I'm going to do something, I'll usually let them know, hey, do you want one of these to be run on this? It's going to be a special show, or do you want to just stick with the normal, here's when people are expecting to tune in show times? So, again, keep in touch with people, keep people apprised, and you'll be able to have good relationships with people. When you treat people well, after a while, if you start working with publicists saying, hey, I'd really like to have your client on my show, after a while, if they get comfortable with you, if you've been respectful of their guests, you've given good communication, you've been there when you said you're going to be there, you follow through, then they'll start coming to you and saying, hey, I have one of my clients that's promoting a new project. Would you be interested in interviewing them on your show? We've worked together before, and we have a good relationship, and they need exposure. So if you're interested, let's schedule something. And I have had that happen a couple of times, and I've really appreciated that because it shows the quality of person that I want to be, the quality I want for the show, the branding, everything is there, and it's being presented the way I want it to be. I want people to know that they can trust me. I want the guests to know that they can trust me. I want the publicists to know that their guests can trust me. And that brings about more growth. So it's a very nice thing to do. And let me tell you, having a relationship with a publicist is a fantastic thing. It's very, very important and can really help you build the podcast. And you get to talk to some really wonderful people. So that's pretty much it for how I track everything. Then it just goes to the uploads. So I have, all the places. Now with Podbean, and I would imagine with some of the other distributors, I only know Podbean because I haven't worked with anyone else. You can set up automated feeds. So when the release comes out, when it makes the episode live, which you can do right away, or you can schedule it ahead of time. I usually upload it when the episode is done. And that way it's just there, it's ready to go. I don't have to be on the spot hoping everything happens quickly enough and it's sent to YouTube and it's sent to iTunes and all that stuff in time. I just upload it as soon as I'm done editing and processing it. So let's take, for example, Twitter. Now, it will upload the episode to Twitter, but Twitter has a very small field for the amount of characters. So it's not going to take all those show notes and put them in the Twitter feed. It's going to make its own little thing, and that may or may not be enough. Basically, it will just say, Haskincast Podcast, episode 105, ready to view, here's the link. Or have you checked out the latest version of the Haskincast Podcast, something like that. Well, that's great. But that doesn't hashtag, that doesn't attract people to that particular hashtag unless they just happen to see it, or maybe somebody will share it, or maybe, they just happen to stumble across it somehow, or somebody makes a comment that they're connected to and they see that comment. So it's really kind of sketchy because you're not really maximizing your ability to find your audience. So I will go ahead and make a second post, and a lot of times I will use the picture that the guest has supplied me with, or the publicist has supplied me with, and that is a visual attractor on top of the hashtags, should help more people find that podcast through Twitter. And then I do the same thing through Pinterest, through LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I do it as a post. On the Pinterest page, I do it as a pin. And for Facebook, I've got my regular Facebook page. I've got the Haskincast podcast page, and sometimes I'll also post it to my just the Scott Haskin Music and More page. Just every once in a while, though, because I really want people following the Haskincast podcast page. Another thing I do on that page is I do a monthly drawing where I will take a flash drive with all the Mental Sauna music on it that I've created, which is 5 albums worth of music. And I will use a random number generator to draw a number between 1 and the number of guests that I have that follow the podcast page on Facebook, and it will generate whatever number. And then I'll see, okay, I'm going to start from the bottom, and the first person that joined is person number 1. And then I will start going up until I hit whatever number the random number generator generated. So if it's person number 76, who is the 76th person that joined the podcast page? That is who is going to win this prize for this month. And I've started to do other things. I've got Haskincast podcast mugs. I've got T-shirts coming. I've got, some different swag that you give out as gifts. And it kind of gives people an incentive to join the page, to follow the podcast, to hopefully listen to some episodes, maybe share and spread the word. But it's really just a thank you to people to say, hey, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day, even if you're doing it while you're doing something else, to listen to my show and to listen to my guest who's taken time to come out and talk to me and hear what they have to say, and maybe check out their projects that might interest you. So it's just kind of a win-win for everybody except for me, who's got to pay for it. But that's part of it. That's, you have to invest a little bit if you want to attract people into your world. It's that simple. You can't rely on celebrities. You can't rely on the projects. You can't rely on the guests to do that for you. Hopefully they will share it. They will like the post. They will share. They will tell their friends. They will tell their fan base, hey, I just did an interview on this and this show. Here's the link. Check it out. And hopefully those numbers of viewers will grow. Maybe they'll like your interviewing skills. They'll check out some other shows. Maybe they'll like the page. Who knows? But if you don't put incentives out there, it's going to be harder to get people to give you the chance. So that's a very important thing to do as well. So those are the main things when it comes to getting the podcast distributed, how I track it, and how I just get everything posted. I do post manually, even as on top of the posts that the app for Podbean does as well. I will post on Twitter. I'll post on Facebook. I'll post on LinkedIn sometimes. Not always does that auto post work. So the other thing too is to double check and make sure that your post works. So instead of saying, well, I set it to upload to LinkedIn, so I'm just going to assume that it did. No, go check. And if it didn't, make a manual post. Put your hashtags in there, get everything up and running. It's all very, very important. So then that's pretty much how I do all of that. As a side note, just on file management, I will take the final MP3 file that I use to upload the podcast to the distributor. I will put that in a finished file where I keep all of the finalized episodes. Then I have a separate folder for all the guests and their information. If the publicist has sent me over something, I will copy that email into a document and keep it in that guest folder. I also keep their pictures, and then that bio page that I showed you with all the links that I upload, I will keep that in their folder. And I delete all the audio processing stuff because honestly, I can't imagine I'll need it for anything anymore. I do wish I would have kept the first few episodes that I did in 2018 before I got IDC, the Instant Dialogue Cleaner, because I'd like to go back and clean up those episodes. It gets a little bit weird when you start using music through that. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go clean those up, but maybe I'll give it a shot, or maybe I'll just clip out the interview process and then clip that back in. We'll see. I don't know. I don't really have the time to do that right now. Maybe someday I will. But in the meantime, so I file those away. I delete all the old audio files except for that final MP3. And my Podbean host does have all those MP3s. But again, I'm not somebody who trusts somebody else to take care of my business. Hard drive space is not that bad. MP3s don't take up that much space, even if they're an hour and a half. So I will go ahead and just put those in a folder, keep them on the hard drive. When I back up that drive, then they're backed up elsewhere as well, which I try to do once about every 4 to 6 weeks. And that's pretty much it. That's what happens. The podcast is then archived for the annals of time, and you're on to the next thing. So thank you guys very much. I hope that this series has been helpful. I do have a couple more videos I'll be doing. In the next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about researching my guests and how I go about doing that. Again, when you have a publicist that sends you over information, it's a lot easier. But if the guests are your friends, ask them. Ask them questions before you prepare for the show or as you're preparing for the show. But we'll get more into that in the next episode.